Hey Backroad Explorers, Saturday morning. We just made it to our campsite last night just outside of Topaz Mountain, and now we're just getting ready. We're gonna have some breakfast, then we're gonna head out on the trail. Our loop today is gonna take us pretty far out in the West Desert. We're gonna loop down towards Notch Peak, which is actually the second biggest free fall in the United States, and we're gonna check it out, and then we're gonna loop back up around to the Pony Express Trail and make our way back towards home. So should be a really exciting adventure. Let's hit the trail.
The area right around where we camped is very popular amongst rock hounders looking for topaz crystals. Most of the area is open to public for rock hounding. Like most of Utah's West Desert, there are trails everywhere. Almost all of them lead to the same places, but it does give a really good variety to choose from. As I do most of my route planning with Google Earth and HEMA Maps, I often wonder how many cool trails we miss out on because I choose one route over another, not knowing what they actually are like. One of the best parts about this trip was just how remote this area is. It's not only far into the desert, but since we're traveling the area in the off-season, we almost had it completely to ourselves, which makes it even more fun. Our first objective was to make it from Topaz Mountain over to the house range where both the Hermit Cave and Notch Peak are located. I normally try to plan no more than 100 miles of dirt driving in a day to ensure we have plenty of time to make a trip. However, I knew from doing research that several of the trails we would be on for the day would be fast-moving, hard, dirt-packed roads we affectionately call dirt superhighways. So I got ambitious and planned over 190 miles of off-pavement driving for the day. The first 15 to 20 miles were really incredible. Tight, two-track trails that cut their way across the desert and through the desert sagebrush, winding over hills and next to washes. It's clear these tracks are rarely used. On more than one occasion, we had to double-check the GPS tracks just to make sure that we didn't miss a turn. We were happy to find a few places where the snow had drifted and accumulated enough to make for some fun snow driving. I love to drive in the snow and enjoy it most when there is just enough to have a lot of fun, but not so much that I have to worry about getting stuck. Eventually, our remote 2-track trail merges with larger, well-graded dirt superhighways that allow us to barrel southwest towards the House Mountain Range and Nevada. So we're out on the old 6 and 50, which is a dirt highway that used to be used a long time ago, heading from Utah into Nevada, and we're cruising on it. We're able to keep speeds, up to like 40, 45 miles an hour. But I'm just really impressed with how beautiful it is out here. It's a lot different than a lot of the other stuff that we do, but it's really cool. It's very contrasty. We have some cool mountains and stuff back there behind us, and we've had some fun snow to go through, kind of like some drifts as we're going through them and floating. And it's just been a really good adventure. Right now we're just heading over. We're trying to make it over to Notch Peak, so let's keep going. It didn't take long for the old 6 and 50 to tighten up as we headed through Margin Pass. We found ourselves in even more snow and enjoyed exploring offshoot trails that horseshoe through some more rugged terrain and loop back to the main trail. One of the key attractions we wanted to see along this route was the Hermit Cave. In the 1920s, a World War I vet named Bob Stinson found himself stranded along the route. He decided to stay in the area and built a stone wall around a shallow cave and made it his home. He trapped small animals and grew a garden for food. Later, he got a job with the government clearing debris from the road and helping stranded travelers. Eventually, over time, a new road was built and he was forced to move, but remnants of the old cave still exist. I love that type of stuff and was really looking forward to visiting. It took a few missed turns to figure out exactly where the canyon was that led toward the Hermit Cave. However, once we started to pull in, we realized that our trip was going to be totally different than we had planned. As we rounded the corner to head up towards the Hermit Cave, we saw a man flagging us down by waving his arms. It turns out they had had quite the adventure. Two brothers in their mid-60s had come out this direction to deliver some parts to a farmer. They had some time to kill and decided to head up the canyon to shoot their guns and to check out the cave. It turns out that the route heading up towards the cave was a little snowy, They thought they saw a better line and started to head in that direction, which they slipped down into a ravine and popped their tire on a large sagebrush. Unfortunately, with the tire so flat, they were having a really hard time getting enough traction to get themselves unstuck. Additionally, there was some type of mechanical failure with their spare tire. It wouldn't drop down beneath their pickup. We fiddled with it for a few minutes, but he insisted that they had messed with it for several hours the day before and were unable to get it to drop. That morning, his brother, who was 62, the younger of the two, headed out to start walking back until he could get reception. I didn't have the heart to tell him that just about 50 or so yards up above, around in the next corner, there was actually a couple who had been camping there the night before. His brother had set out at 6 in the morning and was hoping to walk as far as he could until he could get cell phone reception. We had him jump in with us, and after we headed down the road about 10 miles, sure enough, we found his brother on the side of the road who had been picked up by someone else and driven a couple of miles to get reception so that they could call a friend to come and give him some help. They were both relieved to have been back together and really appreciated the help that we'd given them. We stopped for a few minutes to wait for their friend to arrive, pulled out some food, gave them some ibuprofen, and just chatted up for a while. I was really glad that we had the opportunity to help them. One of the best things about these types of adventure are the different experiences that you have along the way and the people that we meet. It was really cool to meet two guys just like my brother Mike and I who were out having a little bit of fun. I wish they would have been a little bit more prepared, but I was happy to help them, and hopefully I can have their favor returned to me someday. The only negative about our detour is that we were unable to actually check out the Hermit Cave. We were literally within yards of being able to get around the corner to see it, but we ended up helping them instead. One of the main concerns that I had on planning this route was our fuel range. Normally we go about 100 miles a day, and there's typically a stop somewhere in between, and so fuel is never really an issue. I knew that we were going to be pushing the limits of our fuel range, going close to 200 miles off-road with an additional 30 or so miles on the pavement before we got somewhere where we could refuel. That made us have to make some tough decisions. We decided that we weren't going to go to Hermit Cave, but we would still loop down to Notch Peak as I really wanted to check it out, and then start to head back. The drive in towards Notch Peak is absolutely stunning. You can see the sheer drop from miles out, and as you make your way towards it, it just gets bigger and bigger.
So we made it up to Notch Peak. According to Jared, and I guess the internet, it's the second highest, well, vertical cliff in the United States. It's pretty awesome. We had a pretty good view coming into it. We're glad we were able to make it, especially after our detours. It's a pretty cool place. If you can get out here, you should try it.
With a good portion of the day gone and hours left to drive, we reluctantly pointed our rigs towards home. We quickly started burying miles underneath us on these dirt superhighways, enjoying the beautiful vastness of this incredible West Desert, and really enjoyed racing the sunset. Our route would take us primarily north as we made our way through the desert towards the Pony Express Trail. Then, once we reached the trail, we would head west until we made it all the way home. It turned out that my concerns about fuel were definitely merited. Because of our around 30-mile detour to help out the brothers, we ended up coming up short on gas on the Land Cruiser. With the gas light on E, I made it on fumes into a tiny little town in Utah. And of course, their one gas station that they had no digital pumps and the store had closed 2 hours before. We still had about 75 miles before home and I didn't dare risk it. So we jumped in the 4Runner together and headed into the next town so that we could get fuel for the Land Cruiser. We just made it to the Pony Express Trail. It's starting to get dark and we still have at least about 115 miles to go. We've been on the trail for almost 8 hours, so it's been a total blast. And we're looking forward to the last hour, but I wanted to get something in while we still had some light. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and you can see a lot more like it. You can also check us out on Instagram at Backroad Exploration. Thanks for watching.